Hello everyone and welcome to Little C's podcast. We Little C's are a non-profit organization that was established in 2024 and is operated solely by high school students. So let's get started by sending over to May.
The Stranger's Secret. Lena had always loved the quiet life of her small coastal town. With its narrow streets, old houses, and the constant sounds of the waves crashing against the shore, it felt like a peaceful heaven. But everything changed the day she met the stranger. He arrived at the local cafe on a cool autumn afternoon. His dark hair was messy, and he wore an old leather jacket that looked out of place in the sleepy town. He sat alone at the corner table, watching the rain through the window. Lena noticed him immediately, not because he was particularly unusual, but because he seemed lost. His eyes were distant, as if he was carrying some heavy burden. She had always been curious about people, especially those who didn't belong. The following days, the stranger returned to the cafe. He would come in at the same time every day and order the same drink, black coffee, and sit quietly by the window. Lena began to feel a strange connection to him. Despite her quiet nature, she found herself wondering about his story. One day, when the cafe was almost empty, Lena finally decided to speak to him. She walked over and, with a nervous smile, asked, "Hi, I couldn't help but notice you've been coming here every day. Is everything all right?" The stranger looked up, surprised at first, but then his expression softened. "I'm fine," he replied, his voice calm but distant. "Just thinking." Lena hesitated but pressed on. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. The man studied her for a moment, his eyes almost searching for something before he answered. "I'm looking for something I lost a long time ago," he said quietly. "Something I'll never get back, but I can't stop looking for it." Lena felt a twinge of curiosity. "What did you lose?" she asked. But before the man could answer, he stood up quickly, leaving the cafe without another word. Lena felt a sense of disappointment, but also a strange urge to know more. The next day, the man wasn't at the cafe. Lena tried not to think too much about it, but a part of her kept wondering. Had he left town? Was he gone for good? Then, a week later, she discovered something that would change everything. She was walking by the beach when she saw a familiar figure standing near the water, staring out at the horizon. It was the stranger. But this time, he wasn't alone. He was holding a small old book in his hands. As Lena walked closer, she noticed that the book looked worn, like it had been through many years of use. Without thinking, she called out to him, "Hey, are you okay?" The man turned slowly, his face weary but soft. "I'm not sure anymore," he said, almost to himself. He glanced at the book in his hands, and Lena noticed a deep sadness in his eyes. "This book, it belonged to my sister," he continued, his voice shaky. "She died 10 years ago. I have been searching for a place I could bury it, where it could rest in peace. But I have never found it." Lena was stunned. She had no idea this man was carrying such a heavy secret. She realized that the lost thing he had spoken of wasn't just an object. It was his sister, his past, his guilt. After that day, Lena and the stranger whose name she learned was Thomas, began to talk more. He would visit the cafe regularly again, but now he seemed different. He had opened up, sharing memories of his sister and his past with Lena. He explained how he had tried to move on, but the memories had always haunted him. The book, which contained their shared stories and moments, was a symbol of the past he could never let go. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, Thomas asked Lena to accompany him to a small cemetery by the cliffs, a place he had discovered years ago. There, he buried the book, finally letting go of the painful memories that had weighed him down for so long. As they stood there in silence, watching the waves below, Thomas turned to Lena and smiled for the first time in weeks. "Thank you," he said simply. "I think I'm ready to move on now." Lena nodded. Sometimes letting go is the hardest thing we can do, but it's also the most important. Thomas left the town shortly after, but Lena never forgot him. He had come to the town carrying a secret, a weight, and through their brave connection, he had found a way to release it. Lena learned that sometimes it's the quietest strangers who carry the deepest stories, and the most unexpected encounters can change your life in ways you never imagined.
Thank you so much for listening all the way through. We hope you found this episode helpful and enjoyable. If you did, be sure to tune in for next one. Until then, take care and see you soon.